This is my Arizona mountain kingsnake. He's about 15 months old, which means he won't be full-grown adult for another year or maybe even a little longer than that. Arizona mountain kingsnakes are found in Utah, Nevada, and parts of Mexico. They prefer rocky areas with a lot of brush and undergrowth and a nearby water supply, and they tend not to stray very far from their home turf. A kingsnake's diet consists of mice, rats, and lizards, and they do eat other snakes, which is kind of unusual, including venomous snakes like rattlesnakes, copperheads, and coral snakes. The venom from those snakes does not harm the kingsnake. They have an immunity to it. Arizona mountain kingsnakes are really good pets for beginners because they're not aggressive and they are easy to feed. I feed my snake two baby mice each week. They tend to live 10 to 12 years, so people who are thinking of getting one should be prepared to take care of them that long. I mentioned that the king snakes are not aggressive. One way to make sure that they remain that way is to keep them being used to being handled. So I do take my snake out of his cage about once a week. I hold him for 10 or 15 minutes. He doesn't seem to mind. And then I keep him in the cage the rest of the time. So this is my king snake's cage. My king snake is small enough to live in here for a while longer yet. When he gets big and he gets to be a full-grown adult, he'll need a bigger cage, and I'll move him into a bigger tank. This is just a 10-gallon tank. But as you can see, I have plants in here for him to hide under. I have a water dish, so he always has fresh water to drink. Over here in this corner, I have the humidity box, which is a box full of sphagnum moss that I keep wet, and I put it in a Tupperware container like this and just cut a hole in the lid for the snake to enter. And that way it's always moist in there, and the snake can go in there and get his skin wet when he needs to shed. And being in there and staying wet is a really good way to help him get rid of his shed, which they do every month or two. You will find this in the cage every month or two. And they get rid of this by just rubbing their body up against objects in the cage, like a piece of wood or something with kind of a sharp edge on it. And then they're able to peel the skin off and continue to grow. It's really important with snakes that in their cage they have a place to hide, and that's what I have these for. You place these in the cage along with some bedding and some plants, and the snake will feel safe because he always has a place to hide and get away from anything that might frighten him. And then in the back of the tank, kind of hidden away there, are two of those plastic hides where he spends a great deal of his time. He comes out a few times a day, but he spends most of the day in those hides. And then for the bedding on the bottom of the cage, I have aspen shavings that you can buy. I bought them on Amazon. You can buy a really big container, a bale of aspen for about $5 or $10. It's pretty cheap. And you only need to change it every month or two. So it's not too expensive. One other really important item for a snake is that you have the cage at the right temperature. Just putting it at room temperature is okay probably in the summer, but in the winter time, you really need to heat the cage and keep it at the right temperature, which for a king snake is anywhere from about 75 degrees to 85 degrees. And the way that we do that is we take one of these, which you can buy at any pet store for about $20. It simply attaches to the bottom of the cage and keeps one end of the cage warm. That way the snake can be on the warm end when he wants to, and he can go to the other end of the cage when he doesn't want that much heat and stay on the cooler side of the cage. I also have a digital thermometer attached to the tank here so that I can maintain the right temperature for the snake. If it gets too hot in there, this temperature gauge, this thermometer lets me know, and then I can turn off the heat lamp, which is mounted right here in the back to provide extra heat. So when the temperature drops, I turn the heat lamp on and warm it up a little bit, and when the temperature gets high, I turn the heat lamp off. And I just check it a few times every day to make sure it's in the right range. These are some of the tools that you will need if you wish to take care of a snake. I have this extension hook that I can use to pick the snake up out of his cage. I have these tweezers that I can use to hold the mice that I feed the snake so that he doesn't bite me when I'm trying to feed him. When king snakes eat, they seize the prey in their mouths and then they constrict around it and squeeze it. I've had a lot of pets in my life from the time I was a little kid, and I have to say I really like having a king snake as a pet.